So 3-6, we're solving formulas is what this is called. So you probably notice if you look at the board, there's a lot of letters. So they're going to give you some sort of an equation with 2, 3, 4 variables in it. Then they're going to though say, oh, by the way, we're going to tell you what the numbers are for some of these variables. I'm going to take 2 runs at this one. So the first run will be using a P of 14 and a W of 4. And then I'll take you up a notch and make you do some decimal activities. But we're not doing this all at the same time. This is one problem, clear it, then do the other problem. But there's 2 ways you can take these on. So if they give you an equation with a number of variables, and then they're telling you what the variables are, anybody have sort of like a process that you could take us through? What could we do? Okay, one thing we could do is first plug in all the numbers, and then worry about doing all our opposites later. That could work. What's another thing we could do? Instead of plugging in all the numbers first and doing the opposites later, you could do all the opposites first and then put in the numbers later. It doesn't really matter. I don't know what the book encourages us to do. Experience of me doing this with teenagers through the years is I feel like the teenagers are usually better at doing the opposites with the numbers than the letters. There's just a comfort level there. I don't know why. It's the same process. But if I tell you like x plus 3 equals 7, you're like, oh, I'll just subtract 3's and I got x equals 4. Like there's a comfort to that. But if I say x plus y equals z, people lose their comfort level for some reason if they're subtracting y and are going to write z subtracting y. In my old man opinion, this seems easier to me because I don't have to even do the math. I'm just like, have to see it's a subtracting process and write a subtracting answer. But for some reason in the teenage world, that often like blows people up. So I think my recommendation for us to have maximum success based on what I've seen in my lifetime is, I think plug in the numbers for the variables first is probably going to be most people's best bet. And then doing the opposites second is probably going to be your best bet. But if you disagree with me and you want to try it the other way and just experiment in your own life with it, there's nothing wrong with that. But for phase 1 of this, we would take the P of 14 and put in a P of 14. We would take a W of 4, replace this W with a 4, and I'd say do the available math. Whenever you do those replacements, do the available math before you start doing your opposites. In this one right now, what do I mean by available math?
2 times 4?
2 times 4 makes
8.
8. Leave this alone, that's going to be 14. Just make that switch in. Question about the switch in? Then let's do some opposites. First thing you'd want to do
-8.
is subtract 8. I'm going to start cutting you some slack on the work showing. Last unit we were always going -8, cross it out, -8, do the math. If you want to show all those -8s, if that makes you comfortable, keep doing that. But if you want to just hold the -8 in your head when you do your cross off, and you can just hold the -8 in your head and do the math, 14 minus 8 is 6. I'm okay just looking at that. I'd like you to show that middle level of progress, but I don't care anymore if you show the -8 on both sides necessarily. That's kind of like up to you. Then what would we do?
Divide the 2 out.
Divide 2. So we're going to get rid of that by dividing 2. If you want to show me the divide 2's, feel free. But if you feel like you can handle dividing 2's in your head and getting 3, then go for it. Question about the idea? What happens?
Does it matter which one we do for like, so like 2L and 2W? Does it matter which one we do before like?
The W. They told us the W was 4, so we had to replace the W with 4. And they told us the P was 14, so we had to replace the P with 14. And the L is the one they didn't tell us, so the L is the one we have to go hunt.
Oh, because I didn't know about the 3.7.
Well, we're getting to that in a minute. Like I said, that's the next problem up.
Oh, okay.
So
All right.
act like that was never there. That's the problem that we solved.
Oh, okay.
Question about the one we did? Then act like we never did that. I never made any of those replacements. And now we're gonna just go again, same basic start, but the problem's going different. 14.2 goes in. This time the L is what I'm telling you, so L is 3.7. The W is what I don't know. So 2W weights, 14.2 is new. Do available math. What would this create from
7.4.
7.4 is true. Question about that? Who's got to go first? What number's got to go?
The 7.4.
7.4's got to go. So 2W is going to wait its turn. How are you going to get rid of 7.4?
Subtract it from 14.
Subtract it from 14.2. A little bit of borrowing kind of life maybe. 8 decimal 6. Then W alone, we've got
3.
do what with that?
Divide.
Divide by 2. That works out pretty well.
3.4.
3.4. Question about that? Okay, small turn. We just need to capture to there. It's all the farther we need to go, so if you can see to there, we're good. This one. Just do our replacements. Before the equals is going to be
4710.
4710. Pi is roughly 3.14. R squared, if I'm putting in that 5,
25.
it's 25. 5 squared is 25, and H is going to wait. And I'm going to make you a one-day deal on calculators, regardless of taking the quizzes and people passing the thing and earning that as a class and whatnot. Today, to do this problem, the pi problems, we're going to turn calculators on for a day. So if you have one, bust it out. If you don't have one, I can find you one. But I really don't feel like doing 3.14 times 25 the long way, although that's not awful. But what is awful would be long dividing 4,710 by, somebody bust out your calculator on that? Anybody have one?
Yeah.
Have one, bring one? I think it's 78.5. So 3.14 times 25, I think will be 78.5. I still have it. 3.14 times 25, I'm hoping it's 78.5, that means I'm still good at that. 3.14, not this yet. 3.14 times 25, that's all I
Oh, it
want.
was like 6.
3.14 times 25?
3.14. Oh, times.
Times
Oh, I put
25.
Oh my
that's-
god.
25.
I'm hoping it's 78.5.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You did that in your head?
good for me.
I was like,
Bro,
I got
no way.
confused. I did 3.14 divided by 4.7.
Okay, yeah, we're not there yet. Did we lose anybody during that delay?
No.
So what I don't want to make you do, I wouldn't feel guilty at night if I made you do that out by hand. Like, you'd live, you'd survive it. But if I have you long divide 78.5 into 4710, like the old fashioned way, how would you even do that?
Move the decimal.
This moves over, that moves over, and you start to divide, and it's like never gonna end or repeat. It's gonna be, or it'll repeat. But I don't think that's ever gonna end. I think it's just gonna go forever. It's gonna be nutso. If we wanna get the H completely alone, what would we need to do with the 78.5 to get rid of that? Divide. Divide who by who, in what order?
78.5 into 4710.
Yeah, so if we're gonna push buttons though, if we're gonna do this division on the calculator, are we gonna go 78.5
Oh, no.
or 4710 first?
4710.
We're gonna go 4710 first. We're gonna go 4710 dividing 78.5, and I'm gonna think that's like 60-ish. You got the machine there. 4710 divide by 78.5. I'm thinking it's like around the 60s.
Yep, 60.
Is it 60 even? Okay, so I was kind to you. When I created this problem for the board, I must have created one that it'll divide evenly, and we got 60. The homework is not kind. The homework will just give you random numbers, and if you divided it, you'd be dividing like forever. So what I'm gonna say is, on the calculator, go like 60.2, or round it to whatever you got in the tens place. Don't write down your whole screen full of stuff, but just, we'll go to the tens place on that one.
Wait,
So-
I messed up. I forgot 1 0. So it's 600. If I do it,
I don't think, 4710 divide
wouldn't you have that second?
78.5.
Wouldn't you have that second one?
Well, then you'd have 785.
Oh, well, then yeah, 16.
Okay.
I'm an idiot.
The calculator doesn't always win. Human wisdom can often beat calculators. FYI. Question about that one? So then here's like an easier one again. Anybody know what these letters stand for? This is a semi-famous equation. The letters stand for words.
Decimal,
Nah.
denominator,
Distance equals
Rate times time.
rate times time. It has to do with like cars, trains, boats, speeds, trips, stuff like that. So distance equals rate times time. That is a thing. Back here, I erased this one, and we're off camera maybe, that's okay, but it was P equals 2L plus 2W. Those letters represent things. It doesn't necessarily matter for today what they are, but it doesn't hurt to remind you. What's the P for? Anybody remember this, what this is?
What's that?
How about an L?
length,
Length, W,
width,
width. Length and width feeds into a
Perimeter.
math word called perimeter. So that's a formula for doing perimeter. If you don't remember that, it doesn't really hurt your ability to do this today. Well, here we go again. So replace the distance with a 10. Replace the rate with a 5. We got a time that we don't know. So 10 went in, 5 went in. It looks like that. So what's the time?
2.
2. Doing a division opposite to solve it. Something there. Okay, then this one goes less well. Act like that never happened. If I use this set of numbers, this would be
17.
17.
4.
R4,
There's an R and there's a 4. I wasn't sure where you were going with the 4. If you were saying 4 was replacing the R, I wasn't with you. If you want to shuffle the 4 in front of the R, if you would have said an R, I was with you. But if we were trying to put the 4 here, I was not with you. This one, if you divide,
4 and a 4.
4 and a fourth would be good. 4.25 would be good. 17 over 4, I mean, I could live with that for a day. I'd probably prefer those other ones. I'd probably prefer the 4.25. If we think about what this really is, and you knew that that was a rate of speed, if somebody said to you, like, how fast are you riding your bicycle? You might say 4 miles an hour, 4 to 4 miles an hour, 4.25 miles an hour. You would definitely never say 17 fourths miles per hour is what you're riding your bicycle. Like, that's not what you would say as a human. So a mixed or a decimal might be better here in the true meaning of it. But for math purposes today, you might not know what any of this means. You're just getting numbers. 17 fourths would work for that. Question there. Anybody know what those letters are for? That's another real life math formula that we've seen in our life before.
Length,
Length,
width,
height,
volume,
helps you find a volume of a boxy thing. So that's what this is. Length times width times heights, 3 numbers multiplied make us do volume. So here's one to start with. If we do our replacements, the V gets replaced with 120 from that top row. We've got the L getting replaced by 5, W by 4, and H is just waiting its turn. Do the available math before you do the opposites. What's the available math to make?
5 times 4.
5 times 4 makes 20H. 120 is waiting. Grand total answer out of that is 6. Do an opposite, we divide, we got 6. Question about that? Same basic format, volume, length, width, height, but I switch numbers on you, so these go out, my new set comes in. This time we're replacing the volume with
190.
190. the length with
2.
2 width,
Just W.
just W still. The height gets
10.
10. Available math,
2 times 10.
2 times 10,
20.
20, 190. That doesn't work quite as well.
9.
20 into 190 is kind of mean.
Is it 9 and 95? Yeah.
In that neighborhood. Let's, can anybody shortcut this problem? Can anybody make this 20 into 190 more doable in a faster way than it presently is?
Take
Take away the zero.
Kill zeros in equal amounts. So this is the same as 2 into 19, and now life goes no better. 2 into 19 goes
9.5.
9.5 would work, so would 9 and
A half.
a half. Either of those are probably best. 19 over 2, probably livable. But if we think about the fact that this has meaning to something that is real world, you're probably better off not using 19 over 2. You go to Lowe's and you're like, I got a width of something that I measured at home and I need to buy some wire for it. And they're like, how much width do you have? And you're like, 19 over 2. They're going to be like, what? If you're like 9.5 inches, they're a little more on board with cutting you 9.5 inches of wire than like you talking about improper fractions at Lowe's to people. You probably don't know what to do with that maybe. I don't know if the world still knows how to deal with improper fractions. Where we are, 118 is where this homework life is. 118 is going 1 to 12. So honor system calculator use, let me see if I had a note on this. Yeah, calculator, honor system, calculator use okay on 3, 4, and 12. So 3, 4, 12, they don't work out real well without a calculator. So 3, 4, 12, use your calculator. If it goes and fills your whole screen, just go to the tenths place and round to the tenths place, by which I mean, so if you're looking at that, I'd have you write what number if we round that to the tenths?
12.460.
No, too much. Tenths place.
12.5.
12.5. The tenths place is this first one. Why did the 4 become a 5?
Because the 5 and above give it
Is
a
the
shot.
next number, yeah, 5 and above, give it a shot.
Yeah.
If this number to its right is 5 or more, we push up. What if this were like a 3?
It would be 12.4.
It'd be 12.4. Sometimes people round weird and they actually go down from the 4 to a 3. That's crazy talk. This number is either going to stay the same if you're 4 or less, or this goes up by 1 if this is 5 or more. So copy your whole number, copy the decimal, and in the tenths place make a choice whether you're keeping or have to give it a shove. But 118, that's life, homework life. 1 to 12. Calculator honor system only used on 3, 4, 12. The other ones do it the old-fashioned way because we shouldn't need a calculator to do the other ones. And as we saw anyway, if you're actually good at what you do, who dominantly won the race between my mind and the person's calculator? And my mind dominantly won those races. It might take, by the time you find your calculator and get it out of the case, I might have done 10 questions already. Like, if you just get good at what you're doing, you don't need the machine. But I'm sure not doing that in my head. Like, there's a point where you're like, no, this is dumb. There's better ways to do this.
Nice, Resher.
Sure, that's all we got. Shut it down.